A Christmas sermon. Reflection or meditation, it sometimes says in your bulletin on Christmas, but you all know it's a sermon. And so do I. And the other thing that we both know is that most people don't really come to church on Christmas Eve looking to hear a sermon. When I was a young pastor in Chicago, I had a mentor who had preached Christmas Eve close to 50 times. I went into his office one Christmas Eve and I said, "John, what's your secret? How do you keep it fresh every year? What can you teach me as a young preacher to let me know what to say on Christmas Eve?" His response was simple. He said, "Adam, my wife Sue answered that one for me a long time ago. She said, 'John, nobody comes to church on Christmas Eve wanting to hear your sermon. They want to sing the songs and hear the story and light a candle. So keep it simple.'" I take no offense to the idea that no one is really excited about the sermon on Christmas Eve. For me, it's always been about the music. I grew up as the child of two classically trained musicians, and in our house, Christmas music was on nonstop the whole month of December. On the day that the Christmas decorations came out of the attic and went up, the other thing that happened was that the Christmas record albums appeared, a stack of them about 18 inches high. It was full of everything from Placido Domingo to King's College, Cambridge, to John Denver and the Muppets. And looking back, I realize that I knew most of the sacred music at least as well as I knew the secular stuff. I don't have any trouble keeping the 12 days of Christmas straight, and I can do the long version of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. But I also knew every French and English carol and the verses of all of the hymns that we're singing tonight by the time I was 10. So I'm being honest when I tell you that on Christmas Eve, I don't come eager to hear a sermon, but I always come ready to sing. As one who teaches the faith as part of my vocation, I have come to have great appreciation not only for the songs, but for the story they tell. For that's what most of them are doing. They just tell the story. And it's a story that has so much power, it's led to all of those songs. And so I'll try to keep it brief, but tonight, through the lens of a little music, I'll take a few minutes and remind you of some things that the songs have taught me about the story. The obvious place to start is where the story starts, with the shepherds. Their story is told most completely in While Shepherds Watched Their Flocks by Night. But you get bits and pieces of the shepherd's story in just about every carol. They're there all the time. Why? Because the shepherds are the perfect metaphor for God's coming into the world and how God's purposes are achieved through the lens of the shepherds. Seized by dread when the angel appears, the angel says to the shepherds, "Fear not, fear not." It is one of the phrases that is repeated most often in the four Gospels because it's one of the phrases human beings most need to hear. And who is it said to but these regular people? The shepherds have no wealth or power. Going a bit deeper than that, shepherds did not have the best of reputations in the ancient world, so the idea that Jesus appears first to them calls into question all of our own fears and prejudices. The shepherds call into question all the assumptions we make in life about what is proper and lovable and praiseworthy. All of our assumptions get turned on their head in this story of God's own Son, whose angel comes first to greet the shepherds. And their faithful response is just as moving. Lacking all doubt, with nothing to lose and everything to lose, they go unto Bethlehem to see this thing that has taken place. And they appear in song over and over and over again because, along with their humble origins and their complete lack of privilege, they are models of faith. Modern shepherds are all around us. The faith that we see surprising us in countless examples, from refugees to the jobless and the homeless, from those who are boldly fighting inflation to feed their families this year, to those whose background may be different than our own. All of them remind us, as the shepherds once did, Christ came for them as much as for me, perhaps even more. That is the story. Here, in a comfortable American neighborhood, the Magi are a little easier for many of us to connect with. Tradition calls them kings, but a close reading of the text reveals them to be astrologers. These were the academics of their day, the professionals. They held the equivalent of master's or doctoral degrees. They taught others. They traveled for business. They had disposable income for the buying of gifts. Maybe it's a stretch to say that we are just like the Magi. We probably have more in common with them than with the shepherds. The thing I love about the music of the Magi is the wonder. Star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, guide us to thy perfect light. Comfortable though they were, the Magi also knew there was something missing. They were curious. They did not rest. They did not demand control in all things. They, like the shepherds, saw a star and they were willing to follow. Filled with wonder, they embrace the mystery of Christmas. They want to know what's out there beyond what their status has brought them and can buy them. And what they find is so great, it changes their lives forever. And then, of course, there are Mary and Joseph. And theirs is a story of surprise and risk. An unexpected pregnancy and an unwelcome journey to go and pay their taxes. But they stay together and they go on to Bethlehem. Mary rode the donkey, Joseph walked. They arrived in Bethlehem to even more unpleasant surprises. No room at the inn. The need to birth their baby in a stable among the animals. But then the other people in the story start to arrive, the shepherds and the Magi. And Mary and Joseph slowly come to understand that while different than they might have imagined, things are just the way they're supposed to be. And they make a choice to be joyful about it. I've shared in previous sermons this month that joy is a choice. It's sort of my theme this Advent because I think it's a message so worth hearing. Theologian Henri Nouwen reminds us that joy is not the same thing as happiness. We can be unhappy about a great many things, but joy can still be there because it comes from the knowledge of God's love for us. And nothing, not sickness or failure or emotional distress, not oppression or even war or death can take away God's love for us. We can choose to live with this joy at the center of our lives. We can choose to keep living it every single day. And this too is the meaning of the story. There are two songs we sing this night that are worth mentioning when we think about things not quite the way we expected them to be. One is Silent Night, the most beloved of Christmas carols, which some of you may know never would have been written except for the organ being broken and the church musician wanting to do something special for Christmas Eve. The other carol that comes to mind for me is Joy to the World, because honestly, it's one of the few carols that I don't much care for. I claim no other reason for this than pure personal preference. The words in the tune have never really spoken to me. And this is a bit of a challenge for me as a pastor because I get to pick the hymns. But I realize that if there are two most treasured assumptions about Christmas Eve worship, they are that you light your candle and sing Silent Night, and that you go out singing Joy to the World. And I am not going to mess with either one. And of course I never would. It's a good reminder to me at Christmas that in life, not everything is going to go my way. It's not all about me, and finding joy in life is often about finding compromise. How blessed we are to have this story each year of humble shepherds upon whom God's light shines, and comfortable magi who are drawn into a life of wonder and follow a star. And a young couple, parents-to-be, whose life is turned upside down by the unexpected, but who take a chance to love God and choose joy. May the story and the songs we find it in be a gift to you as they have so long been for me. In them there is a promise that one day peace shall over all the earth its ancient splendors fling, and the whole world give back the song which now the angels sing. Amen.